There we go. So as Gordon was talking about just a couple of minutes ago, optimizing for 100 gig is no easy feat. And the Enterprise Strategy Group, another consulting firm, has a really good view on what happens within network operations organizations when change like this happens. The decision is made, we need to go to 100 gig for X reason. And so the IT trend is driving demand. And what this causes within network organizations is discontinuity. And what we mean by that is there's a demand on one side to take the network to another level. Meanwhile, the current infrastructure is built to a lower level. Right. And so there's this disconnect between where the organization wants to go and where it is today. So for many organizations, it's about, okay, wait a minute, I've got this disconnect. Now I need either additional tools for network management or security. Why? Because I need the visibility. I'm making a strategic investment in driving the performance of this network, and I need to make sure that it's operating properly and safe. Now, in typical or old school deployment, we just say, okay, hey, let's just do some span of mirror reports or some tasks to solve this problem. And Gordon, just as you were saying a few minutes ago, that's something that just, as we get to these levels, just can't easily scale.
Right.
And so now we have issues associated with this drive to increase the visibility. And really what's needed here is the network packet broker approach, which allows for the scaling of the network to whatever level is needed because of the intelligence that network packet brokers bring to the situation, from being able to properly filter through and groom traffic and deliver to the right tool without overrunning them. Right. As a matter of fact, if you then think about going back to the Enterprise Management Associates study of just about 6 months ago, their survey of the solutions out there was that no tool solution from a network performance monitoring or even security monitoring solution can reliably get beyond 25 gig. So there's just, we need a way as an industry to be able to sort through and make sure that we can't overrun these tools and provide a solution that can scale, whether it's going from 10 to 100, 10 to 40 to 100, or whatever those increments are. So with that said, I was going to hand the microphone back over to you, Gordon, to talk through some of the how to address some of the challenges associated with these 100 gig deployments.
All right, well, thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. So if we look at, going back to the start around the traditional monitoring approaches that were done in the past, typically people in the old days would actually just connect, use a passive tap into the link. They would actually then connect a monitoring tool directly to that particular passive tap. So it gave them full visibility onto that link, but you're really limited to what you can see of that link, or possibly you might have a couple of links and still do everything at that particular very specific location. The other type was where you could use a mirror port on a switch, and then directly connect your monitoring tool to that as well. Once again, you're only connected to that specific switch of you, and get the visibility that that switch can actually present to you. So that's kind of limiting. So you just have very localized analytics capability, very localized access, and it's not really practical for 100 gig at all. So then there was the necessary single link approach that came along, where you say, okay, I've got a single link for 100 gig, but I know that I can't handle the full bandwidth of the traffic. So I can still take a kind of a localized approach, but I know I can't handle the full amount of traffic that's on a 100 gig link with the monitoring products that I have available. And so this is, as Chris was saying before, where a network packet broker will come into play. So you put in your passive tap on the network, you bring up the traffic for both directions, feed it into your network packet broker, and it can then downspeed convert the traffic to meet the actual interface speeds of the tools, and not only that, but also spread the load of the traffic across multiple instances of the tools, so you can handle the full volume of traffic that you do want to look at and monitor. It's still localized analytics, but at least you're getting a broad access into all the 100 gig traffic that you're trying to monitor on that link. So this solution will work for 100 gig.
So Gordon, do you think that this would be a typical scenario given where we are in the network, or is really there are different end states here?
There are, because of the state of the adoption of 100 gig in people's networks, some are deploying large numbers of them in their central offices or data centers, but there are several that are not. They're just going maybe one or two in the data centers, and that type of situation, this type of approach could work quite well. It can also facilitate what I'll be talking about in the next slides about a more distributed, centralized approach. It's also worth pointing out that to enable it, as I was alluding to a couple of slides ago, to enable the 100 gig to be successfully passively tapped, if you're using multi-mode 100 gig, you should be trying to look to have OM3 fibers and splitters used, and in the case of single mode, that you have OS2 fiber and splitters. So then, once you've got access to the traffic that I showed there a second ago, and you've got it in the network packet broker, the network packet broker not only do the things that I mentioned about converting the speed down and also balance in the traffic, but I can also now do some filtering. I can sort out from the traffic that's on the 100 gig link, okay, which tools, or all the tools that I'm using, what traffic do they really need to see? They probably don't need to see the entire 100 gig, so I can actually just filter down to the traffic that's really of interest to those tools and just send those tools only their traffic of interest. For instance, if it's a voice over IP quality analyzer, maybe they just want to see the SIP signaling and the RTP traffic. Or if it's a web traffic analyzer, they just want to see the HTTP and HTTPS traffic. So you can actually filter down to the traffic of interest only. And then if that's still either not enough, or there's still some elements in the traffic that are not desirable to make the most efficient use of your monitoring tools, you can actually optimize the packets even further by either adding additional information such as time-stamping information, or actually removing protocols that are not necessary for the analysis and that will actually reduce the problems for the tools to do the analysis, such as tunneling or encapsulation of various types, are not always supported by every single analytics tool. And then the final thing is that you can also mitigate something I mentioned earlier about bursty traffic. When you aggregate bursty traffic, you can actually then run into problems of what we call microbursts, where you have very brief periods of time oversubscription of the ports that you've got your tools connected to. And this also happens when you're doing downspeed conversion, going from 100 gig, breaking that down to 10 gig or 40 gig. You can have very brief bursts of 100 gig rate traffic, which will then is a bursty type of traffic, which will then have a tendency to oversubscribe your for a very brief moment in time, your 40 gig or 10 gig or even 9 gig ports. So you need some way to actually mitigate those microbursts, which will result in loss of traffic. And so you need some kind of burst buffering available at the last stage. The next step, which is the more holistic type approach to doing a monitoring system for your network, is where you want to have a more of a centralized approach. And so what the network packet brokers allow you to do is to build up a virtual system made up of a number of different network packet brokers, where they effectively network together and pass traffic through each other to get from the point that you're getting access to the traffic at and forwarding it back to the centralized monitoring and analytics tools that you have, or security analytics devices. So you can get visibility to all the traffic in your network, and you can also then manage. It makes it much easier to manage all your tools of different types in the locations that you actually want to have them in, and not worry about where the traffic is located across the network, and bring it all back to that central point. And so therefore, once you've got it all together, you've obviously aggregated the traffic together. You can now do consolidated filtering of the traffic. You can strip, slice, or stamp the traffic as you want, and then you can actually balance the load of the traffic across the tools that you have. So this is definitely the solution. If you've got more than one 100 gig link, or in particular more than 100 gig network, then you definitely need to have this approach to having a monitoring solution.